What is up, Fantasy League enjoyers? How you doing? Hopefully better than this performance, which is to date the worst I think I've ever done in any fantasy league I've ever taken part in. A complete disaster. So, just I don't even know what to say really. I went for Vitality. I correctly said that they would win. They did win. But I went for Rops rather than Zaiwu, and this time it was the other way around, wasn't it? I went for him in the group stage. Zaiwu didn't perform as well as he should have, considering his price tag. This time he performed far superior, but what really sunk me more so than that, because I could have got away with taking Rops and Apex instead, is that I double stacked for Aurora, and in front of a crowd, a position there Mongols typically shrink and kind of fade away. Aurora were dreadful, and Madra in particular, minus 22 points. That was just GG at that point. So yeah, I don't really have much to say about this really. Just Aurora very disappointing. Again, I'm losing faith in this Aurora team, I've got to be honest. And although the Mongols did post up a good performance against them, again, I don't have too much faith in the Mongols either. They're both in this weird kind of 5th to 10th position world ranking wise. It's very strange right now, but it makes for a lot of cool narratives going into the major. And speaking of the major, by the way, obviously that's what we're playing for today. It's what we're making this video for. But additionally, I have gone through my pick'ems for stage 1. So if you do want to jump on top of that, especially as it is going to be very much applicable for this video, as I've gone through more detail and more depth, why I've gone for certain teams to make it 3-0, etc., then by all means check that out. And I will put it in the description box below, so make sure you don't miss that. But speaking of which you'll hear me repeat in that video, here are the opening matches: Complexity and OG, Heroic Chinggis Warriors, Bait against Imperial, Betboom and Namiga, Tyloo NRG, Lin Vision Legacy, Wildcard Metisport, and then finally FlyQuest take on Fluxo. Those are the opening matches, and I've got to say, like, obviously with it being stage 1, it's not exactly the most competitive in terms of top level Counter-Strike, but I think it's going to be very competitive in terms of how tight this tournament will be, this stage will be. There's a lot of games in this opening BO1, and again, it is best of ones. We're back to the major format now. It's not the BO3s anymore. So shocks, twists, turns, teams not showing up are going to be more prevalent here, and there's going to be a lot more results that can be very unpredictable and difficult to really see happening. But there's a lot of games here where I look at them and I honestly, it's a coin flip. Like, your guess is as good as mine. Even though I've done a lot of research, I've watched these teams a lot. It is just a very scrappy and a very open stage here at the major. So I'm going to go based off the opening fixtures, but also the teams I think are more likely to shine and prevail on this one. And then, of course, it's always down to the budget as well. But I'm looking at these opening fixtures, and I'm thinking Lin Vision Legacy is a really close one, very difficult to call. Additionally, I think Bait and Imperial will be an interesting game. And then, obviously, we also need to talk about Complexity. Hulzerk will not be making it, even though I believe he is actually available to pick right now in the Fantasy League, which is quite surprising. But as far as I'm aware, it's going to be Junior in for Complexity, which does certainly make me not as confident in their abilities, because Hulzerk was a huge part of the piece of the puzzle that allowed Complexity to bounce back and come into this stage as one of the favorites. Like, if they had their 5, if Hulzerk was here, then I think Complexity would probably be the favorites alongside Heroic to make it out of this group, and probably 3-0. But with Hulzerk not being here and Junior in his stead, there's a lot more question marks, there's a lot more uncertainty. So with that being said, let's have a look at the team that I've gone for here. I have clearly missed out on quite a few of the teams that even I expect will make it, but it's down to budget. So I'll show you here. First off, Complexity. See that Hulzerk is listed as 228. As far as I'm aware, unless something has changed in the last day, he's not going to be there. So I'm surprised he's even in this right now. I guess it hasn't officially been announced that he won't be there 100%. Maybe that's why he's not in the standings. But at the time of making this video, I think we're like 4 days out or something like that from it actually starting. So maybe something happens and he has got like a last second approval. Not too sure. Either way, other than Nyx, it's hard to justify going for any of these players with their price tags, especially when you consider I don't expect the 5 to be there as a team. And even Junior, even if people have faith in him, obviously we've seen him a lot in the past play in tons of different teams. He is a capable AWPer. It's not Hulzerk, and it's not that piece that they've been relying on. It changes the dynamics. It changes the fundamentals of how the team is going to operate. They're not going to be playing at 100%. And so, although I think they still will make it through, these prices are far too high for me to justify going in for, even for Knicks. Because, I mean, let's be real. Like, Knicks, 198k for a player that's averaging like 0.99 rating. Don't know how the change is also going to affect complexity. Maybe his rating goes down even more. That's a lot of money for a player that could get you some minus points. It's just not worth it. So, the other teams that I've skipped out on here, I didn't go for FlyQuest, because if I'm going FlyQuest, I want to go Regali or Netic. I think they're a bit too expensive. I get it. I understand there's not a huge amount of big teams here. If Regali was down at like 210, 205, I should say, then I think I would have picked him up. 215 is just too much. Bait was another team I was thinking going for, but realistically, in terms of the pricing, again, it's very high, like MPL at 217. That's a lot of money for a team that I think it may either 3-0 and cruise through here, or they could actually just end up going out. They are very much an uncertainty for me. As again, you'll be able to reference in my Pick'ems video. Didn't go for wildcard either, a bit on the expensive side. Like Fuzi 225 is very, very expensive. I thought of going for Tai Lu. I've got to be honest. I was thinking of going for Messiah or Mercury. I went back and forth on this quite a lot. And I'm probably going to end up regretting not going for them, because I think Tai Lu are going to have a good event here. And the other player that I was really keen on picking up was actually Sadzin, because I don't know why I just came out of that. He, for 195k, is actually, I think, a bargain pick. Now, I know people are going to be down on Legacy because, obviously, Bestia should have been here. They were the ones that qualified. Also, Legacy have been to some EU events recently, and they've lost out on a bunch of teams. But I was watching them very closely when they played against Vitality, and it gave me a lot of faith in these guys. I've got to say, Sadzin in particular, on their Dust 2 performance against Vitality, considering he's AWPing against IWU, considering it's Vitality, the best team in the world by a considerable margin right now if you look at the results. A team that many think will win this major and set themselves in stone as having a legacy. The first legacy of CS2, the first legacy that we've had, or era, I should say, that we've had in a long, long time. And the fact that Sadzin was going blow for blow with Zywoo and actually having some really good rounds and a lot of impact gave me faith that they can do work at this event. Gave me faith that for 195k, an AWPer in best of ones, where Dust 2 is going to be played a fair few times, I think that Legacy are going to be a team that surprises and shocks people. And I think that's a great price for Sadzin. So I wanted to go for him. I went double heroic because I think they're the favorites to take this tournament. And I did go back and forth going for Tenia, but 230k didn't leave me much in terms of other decision-making, like of big players. So I went down for Xfloud, who also has good stats. Like, he's also going to be a pretty solid player, I'd have to think, at stage 1. And he affords me the luxury of going in for Zorti as well for BetBoom, because I think BetBoom, when I made my pick'ems, I was really torn between going for Bait as 3-0 or BetBoom as 3-0. And I thought Bait have the potential to crash and burn in this tournament and just not make it through at stage 2. I think that is a possibility. They're a team of youngsters. They've shown in the past that they've crumbled a little bit when the pressure was on. There's every chance that they will. They have tons of ability and talent. They've had some very good results as of late. One of the few teams, by the way, that has beat Heroic recently. That isn't in the tier 1 bracket, the Vitalities, the Spirits of this world. But I felt like BetBoom are very likely to make it through, but I could see them dropping a map. I could see them dropping a map here or there, a best of one where like Axal's not there on the server, or maybe Magnajez just has a bit of an off game and they end up losing because of it. But I have a lot of faith in Boomich because, to be completely honest, I think he's the best IGL at this tournament. I think BetBoom have some of the best protocols, some of the best mid-round calling at this tournament. In stage 1, I mean, obviously, not the entire major. It definitely rivals Heroic, and I think it's actually better than Heroic is. I just think Heroic have better individuals, and they play better as a team. But Boomich, I think, is honestly like one of the best IGLs. And he's also an IGL, as you're going to see here from his stats, that is just below the 1.0 mark. Typically, a player that's at 182,000 is like a Carrigan type player that has a rating of like 0.85, you know, maybe 0.9 maximum. Boomich is a guy that can frag, and we've seen this multiple times over. He's one of those IGLs that can frag out and he can get positive points. 182k for Boomich is an unbelievably good deal. And so it was a no-brainer for me as soon as I saw his price to go for Boomich. I was thinking of going for double BetBoom anyway. I decided to go for Zorti because Magnajez is just a little bit more expensive. As you can see, my remaining budget was $0. So we've gone for Zorti, who's in pretty good form lately. Boomich as well, because of the price basically, and because I think he is someone that can do damage as an IGL. And then we've double stacked Heroic with LNZ. LNZ, similar kind of ballpark to Boomich in terms of his rating, but of course this is with Heroic winning a lot of their recent matches. I don't see him as being as influential in terms of his fragging as Boomich is with Bet Boom. But at the end of the day, I expect Heroic to 3-0 this, and if with their 3-0ing, and they're starting against Chinggis Warriors, who they have 4 wins in a row against, then if it's a straightforward game, LNZ can get his frags as well. It's not like he's, you know, a non-factor in terms of kills, but he can get his frags, he can get a bunch of points as well because Heroic will be winning, and it'll be happy days. And then Sadzin is kind of my ace up the sleeve, budget pick player for a team that I think is going to do better than a lot of people expect them to. And even if Legacy don't make it, even if they go out like 2 and 3, I expect that Sadzin's going to have a couple of very good maps and is going to get me positive points. So I'm pretty confident about this team, I've got to say. I am actually quite confident in this. So we're going to lock that one in. We've got eco-friendly on LNZ. Attacker on Sadzin, because obviously I've got 2 main AWPs on this team. Both Zorti and Sadzin are the AWPs for their respective teams. We've got xCloud on entry fragger. He is a very, very good entry fragger, obviously 15.6. You'll have a look at the rest of the players here, like not even close to him. He is basically the entry fragger a lot of the time for Heroic, so I expect him to do well in that mark. Support for Boomich, so he can pick up some points, you know, doing those supportive things. And then Zorti is on the main AWP, because I think he's a lot more kind of, I don't want to even say one-dimensional, but I think he'll have more impact more often than not than Sadzin will on the AWP. And additionally, Sadzin has better stats when it comes to being on the attack side. So that's why I've gone for those roles. Anyway, comment below and let me know what you think of this team and who you went for. And again, if you are curious on any of my thoughts on the stage 1 in a bit more depth and going through each team individually, then do by all means check out my Pick'ems video. And of course, I'll be making the Pick'ems videos throughout the entirety of the major. Same with these HLTV Fantasy League videos as well. Thank you very much for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one. Good luck.